2 in the morning, and I'm standing in my own kitchen like a stranger in someone else's house. The fluorescent light above the sink buzzes with that particular frequency that makes your teeth ache, casting everything in harsh shadows that seem to move when you're not looking directly at them. My name is Tanner Jossman, and tonight I discovered that my wife has rewritten the rules of our marriage without bothering to consult me. The note is still there on the refrigerator, held in place by a magnet shaped like a lighthouse. Ironic, considering how lost I feel right now. Sylvie's handwriting, all neat loops and careful spacing, like she's drafting a business memo instead of dismantling 15 years of what I thought was a solid marriage. Tanner, it begins, because of course she couldn't be bothered to start with something warmer. I've been thinking about our relationship and where we are as individuals. I believe we would both benefit from a more open arrangement. This doesn't mean I love you any less. It means I love myself enough to explore what else might be out there. I hope you can understand and support this decision. We can discuss the details when you're ready. Love, Sylvie. Love, Sylvie. Like she's signing off on a grocery list. I've read it 17 times now, and each time it makes less sense. Or maybe it makes perfect sense, and that's what's driving me crazy. I'm a boat carpenter, not a philosopher. I work with my hands, building things that are meant to last, things that can weather storms and still bring people safely home. I understand wood grain and joint construction and the way water moves around a hull. I don't understand whatever language Sylvie's speaking these days. The shower upstairs shuts off with a groan of old pipes. She'll be down here in 10 minutes, hair wrapped in that blue towel she's had since college, acting like nothing's changed. Like she hasn't just handed me a permission slip to watch our marriage collapse. Her phone is charging on the counter, screen dark but somehow still menacing. I've never been the type to snoop, never felt the need. Sylvie and I used to talk about everything, or at least I thought we did. Now I'm wondering what else I've been missing while I was busy trusting her. The screen lights up at my touch. No passcode. She's always said she has nothing to hide. The irony tastes bitter in my mouth as I scroll through her recent messages. Most are work-related, the usual human resources drama from her job at Coastal Properties, Maine's most exclusive real estate firm. Then I find them. Brody, can't wait for tomorrow night. Same place? Sylvie, already booked the room. Tell your wife you're working late again. Brody, you're terrible. I love it. Sylvie, you haven't seen terrible yet. The messages go back months. Hotel receipts in her email, charges to restaurants I've never been to, photos I definitely didn't take. There's even a video from last year's yacht club gala, shaky and dark, but clear enough to see Sylvie pressed against some guy in an expensive suit, his hands places they shouldn't be. So much for her sudden revelation about needing to explore what else might be out there. She's been exploring plenty, apparently. Footsteps on the stairs. I delete the message thread I was reading and put the phone back exactly where I found it, my hands steadier than they have any right to be. Maybe it's shock, or maybe 15 years of marriage has taught me to hide my reactions better than I thought. Oh, you're still up. Sylvie appears in the doorway, wrapped in her robe, hair damp and smelling like her expensive shampoo. She looks younger in the dim light, almost like the woman I married. Almost. Couldn't sleep, I say, which is true enough. Read your note. She has the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. I was hoping we could talk about it when you were ready. I'm ready now. Tanner, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. This isn't about you. It's about growth. About becoming the people we're meant to be. The people we're meant to be. I wonder if the person she's meant to be includes sneaking around with hedge fund managers named Brody. Who is he? I ask. For just a second, her composure slips. What do you mean? The guy you're already seeing. Because this isn't about exploration, Sylvie. This is about you wanting permission to do something you're already doing. She recovers quickly. I'll give her that. Straightens her shoulders, lifts her chin. It's her boardroom pose, the one she uses when she's about to fire someone. His name is Brody Kinter. He's someone I've gotten close to through work. And yes, we've developed feelings for each other. But I didn't want to sneak around anymore. I wanted to be honest with you. Honest, right. How long? Does it matter? It matters to me. She sighs, like I'm being unreasonable. 8 months, maybe 9. 9 months. While I was working 16-hour days to finish the Hendersons' yacht, she was playing house with some Wall Street type. While I was planning our anniversary dinner, she was booking hotel rooms with her boyfriend. I see. My voice sounds calm, detached, like we're discussing the weather. Tanner, I know this is a shock, but actually, there's something else we need to discuss. She brightens, probably thinking I'm about to make this easy for her. Marin called yesterday. She's having some trouble with her landlord in Portland, needs a place to stay for a while. I told her she could use the guest room. The color drains from Sylvie's face. You invited my sister to stay here? Now? She's family. And you did say this was about being open and honest, right? I figure having Marin around might help us all adjust to the new arrangement. Sylvie and her younger sister have what you might charitably call a complicated relationship. What you might more accurately call a 25-year-old grudge match that occasionally breaks into open warfare. Having Marin here, while Sylvie's trying to manage her affair and her marriage, is going to be like throwing gasoline on a campfire, which is exactly why I suggested it. When is she coming? Sylvie asks, and I can hear the strain in her voice. Tomorrow afternoon. She'll probably stay through the summer, maybe longer. You know how she is when she's between projects. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Marin is an artist, sculptures mostly, weird, twisted things made from driftwood and metal that somehow manage to be beautiful and disturbing at the same time. She's also the only person I know who can make Sylvie lose her composure just by existing in the same room. This is not a good time for house guests, Tanner. Really? I thought this was the perfect time. After all, you're the one who wants to shake things up. She stares at me for a long moment, trying to figure out if I'm being sincere or sarcastic. The truth is, I'm not entirely sure myself. All I know is that for the first time in months, maybe years, I feel like I'm not just reacting to whatever Sylvie decides to do with our lives. Fine, she says finally, but I'm not going to babysit her, and if she starts any of her usual drama, I'll handle Marin. You just focus on exploring your growth. She gives me a sharp look, but I keep my expression neutral. After a moment, she turns and heads back upstairs, leaving me alone in the kitchen with the buzzing light and the note on the refrigerator. I pour myself 3 fingers of bourbon, the good stuff I usually save for special occasions. Tonight feels special enough in its own twisted way. Outside, the wind is picking up, rattling the windows and making the house creak like a ship at anchor. Storm coming, probably. The weather service has been predicting rough seas all week. I take the note off the refrigerator and read it one more time, then fold it carefully and slip it into my pocket. Evidence, maybe. Or just a reminder of the moment everything changed. Tomorrow, Marin arrives. Tomorrow, things get interesting. I finish the bourbon and head upstairs where Sylvie is already in bed, turned away from my side with the covers pulled up to her shoulders. She doesn't move when I slide in beside her, doesn't acknowledge my presence at all. Just lies there pretending to sleep while I stare at the ceiling and plan my next move. The thing about building boats is that you have to think several steps ahead. You can't just slap some planks together and hope for the best. Every joint has to be perfect, every angle calculated, every piece fitted exactly where it belongs. One mistake, one shortcut, and the whole thing falls apart the first time it hits rough water. Marriage, I'm learning, might not be so different. Marin pulls into our driveway at 3:30 in the afternoon, driving a battered pickup truck that looks like it's held together with rust and stubbornness. The back is loaded with canvases, tools, and what appears to be half a tree trunk. She's always been drawn to things other people throw away, finding beauty in broken pieces and forgotten scraps. I'm in the garage, pretending to organize my workshop while actually watching for her arrival. Sylvie left for work early this morning, muttering something about important meetings and late nights. I suspect she's really arranging to spend more time with Brody, but I keep that observation to myself. Tanner, Marin calls out as she climbs down from the truck's cab. She's wearing paint-splattered jeans and a flannel shirt that's probably older than some of my tools. Her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun that somehow looks intentional. At 25, she's 11 years younger than Sylvie, but she carries herself with the kind of confidence that comes from not caring what other people think. Hey, stranger. I walk over and give her a hug, breathing in the familiar scent of turpentine and coffee that always seems to follow her around. How was the drive? Long, boring. Gave me plenty of time to wonder why my brother-in-law suddenly invited me to stay when my sister barely tolerates me on holidays. Direct as always. It's one of the things I've always liked about Marin. She doesn't waste time with small talk or social niceties. She says what she means and means what she says. Maybe I missed having family around, I tell her, which is true enough, even if it's not the whole truth. She gives me a look that suggests she's not buying it, but doesn't push. Instead, she starts pulling bags out of the truck bed. Where should I put this stuff? And please tell me Sylvie isn't planning to redecorate my room in pastels and motivational posters. Guest room's upstairs, second door on the right, same as always, and Sylvie's been too busy with work to worry about redecorating. Work. Right. There's something in her tone that makes me pause. A note of skepticism that suggests she knows more than she's letting on. We spend the next hour hauling her belongings upstairs and getting her settled. Marin travels light when it comes to clothes and heavy when it comes to art supplies. By the time we're done, the guest room looks like a studio exploded in it, but she seems comfortable with the chaos. So, she says, flopping down on the bed and fixing me with that direct stare again. Want to tell me what's really going on? Because the last time we talked, everything was sunshine and roses in the Jossman household. I consider my options. Marin has never been particularly fond of her sister, but they're still family. On the other hand, she's also the most honest person I know, and right now I could use someone I can trust. Sylvie wants an open marriage, I say finally. Marin's eyebrows shoot up. Wants, or already has? Already has, apparently. Guy named Brody Kinter. They've been seeing each other for months. Brody Kinter. She repeats the name slowly, like she's tasting something unpleasant. Tall, too much hair gel, drives a BMW that costs more than most people make in a year. You know him? We've met. Her expression darkens. Let's just say he's exactly the type of guy Sylvie would fall for. Rich, arrogant, thinks women exist for his entertainment. There's a story there, but before I can ask about it, we hear the front door slam downstairs. Sylvie's home early, probably to establish ground rules before Marin gets too comfortable. Showtime, Marin murmurs, and I catch a glimpse of something that might be anticipation in her eyes. We head downstairs to find Sylvie in the kitchen, still in her work clothes, but somehow managing to look like she's ready for a photo shoot. She's always had that ability to appear perfectly put together no matter what's happening around her. It served her well in the corporate world, but right now, it just makes her seem cold and distant. Marin. She doesn't move to hug her sister, just nods like she's acknowledging a business associate. I see you've made yourself at home. Just getting settled. Thanks for letting me crash here, sis. I know how much you love unexpected guests. It wasn't my idea. The temperature in the room drops about 10 degrees. I step between them before this can escalate into one of their legendary arguments. How about I make us some coffee? We can catch up, figure out how to make this work for everyone. That sounds lovely, Sylvie says, but her smile doesn't reach her eyes. I'm sure we all want this to be as comfortable as possible. I busy myself with the coffee maker, while the sisters engage in the kind of polite conversation that's actually a carefully orchestrated battle. They're both masters at it, Sylvie with her corporate diplomacy, and Maren with her artistic irreverence. It's like watching two chess players who've been studying each other's moves for decades. So, how's the art world treating you? Sylvie asks, settling into a chair at the kitchen table. Can't complain. Just finished a piece for a gallery in Boston. They're calling it provocative and challenging, which usually means they're not sure if they love it or hate it. How nice for you. What about you? Still helping rich people buy houses they don't need? I'm an HR director now, actually. I manage personnel for the entire firm. Right. So you help rich people hire other people to help them buy houses they don't need. I hide a smile behind my coffee mug. Round 1 to Maren. Sylvie's phone buzzes, and she glances at it quickly before putting it face down on the table, but not before I catch a glimpse of the name on the screen. Brody. Important call? I ask casually. Just work. Nothing that can't wait. The phone buzzes again, and again. Whoever's calling really wants to talk to her. You should probably take it, Maren suggests. Don't let us keep you from your important business. Sylvie's jaw tightens. It's fine. We're having family time. Family time? How sweet. Maren leans back in her chair, studying her sister with the same intensity she usually reserves for her art. You know, Tanner was just telling me about some changes you've been making around here. Sounds like you're really embracing new experiences. I nearly choke on my coffee. Sylvie shoots me a look that could freeze the harbor in July. Tanner shouldn't be discussing our private matters with anyone, even family. Oh, I don't mind, Maren says cheerfully. I think it's great that you're finally being honest about what you want. It must be such a relief not to have to sneak around anymore. The silence that follows is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Sylvie's face has gone pale except for 2 bright spots of color on her cheeks. Her phone buzzes again, and this time she grabs it. I need to take this, she says, standing abruptly. It really is important. She disappears into the living room, and I can hear her voice through the doorway, low and urgent. Maren watches her go with a satisfied expression. Well, she says, this is going to be more fun than I thought. Fun isn't exactly the word I'd use. Come on, Tanner. When was the last time you saw her that rattled? She's been running your life for years, making all the decisions, expecting you to just go along with whatever she wants. Maybe it's time she learned that actions have consequences. Through the doorway, I can hear Sylvie's voice getting more agitated. No, you can't come here. Because my sister is staying with us, that's why. No, I don't know for how long. Maren grins. I'm starting to like it here already. The thing is, I'm starting to like having her here too. For the first time in months, Sylvie isn't completely in control of the situation. For the first time in years, I'm not just a supporting player in my own life. Sylvie returns to the kitchen, her composure restored but her eyes still flashing with irritation. I'm going to have to work late tonight, she announces. Important client meeting. On a Tuesday night? I ask. Business doesn't keep regular hours in real estate, Tanner. You know that. Right. Business. Well, don't worry about us. Maren and I will find something to do. Maybe I'll show her around town, introduce her to some people. That's not necessary. I'm sure she'd rather get settled in. Actually, Maren says, I'd love to see what passes for nightlife in this place. Tanner, didn't you mention something about a friend who owns a bar? I did indeed. Lucille Parker runs a place called The Anchor down by the waterfront. It's the kind of establishment where locals go to drink and gossip, where everyone knows everyone else's business, and where information flows as freely as the beer. Great idea, I say. Luce would love to meet you. Sylvie's phone buzzes again. She glances at it, and I catch another glimpse of Brody's name. I really need to get ready for this meeting, she says. Don't wait up. She heads upstairs, leaving Marin and me alone in the kitchen. After a moment, we hear the shower running. "So," Marin says, "tell me more about this Brody character." The anchor sits at the end of Harbor Street like a lighthouse guiding ships to shore, except instead of warning sailors away from dangerous rocks, it's drawing locals toward dangerous gossip. The building is older than most of the boats in the marina, weathered gray shingles and windows that have seen everything this town has to offer at least twice. Lucille Parker bought the place 15 years ago with money from her divorce settlement, and she's turned it into exactly the kind of establishment her ex-husband would have hated. Loud, unpretentious, and full of people who work for a living. She's behind the bar when Marin and I walk in, her red hair pulled back in a ponytail and her sleeves rolled up to reveal arms that could probably arm wrestle most of her customers and win. "Well, well," she calls out when she sees us. "Look what the tide washed in. Tanner Jossman as I live and breathe. And who's this lovely creature? Luce, meet Marin Hollis, Sylvie's sister." Luce's eyebrows shoot up. She knows enough about the Hollis family dynamics to understand that this introduction comes with complications. "Sylvie's sister, huh? Well, aren't you a brave one, staying in the same house as those two?" She pours 3 glasses of beer without being asked. "What brings you to our little corner of paradise, honey?" "Artistic inspiration," Marin says, which isn't exactly a lie. "Plus, I needed a change of scenery." "Don't we all? Especially lately." Luce gives me a meaningful look. Seems like everyone's looking for a change of scenery these days. The anchor is busier than usual for a Tuesday night. I recognize most of the faces. Fishermen, shop owners, a few guys from the boatyard where I sometimes pick up extra work. The kind of people who notice when someone's routine changes, when someone starts acting differently. "Speaking of changes," Luce continues, wiping down glasses with practiced efficiency. "Saw your wife the other night. She was having dinner at Romano's with some fancy-looking fellow. Didn't look like business to me, if you know what I mean." Romano's is the most expensive restaurant in town, the kind of place where tourists go to feel sophisticated and locals go to celebrate anniversaries. It's definitely not the kind of place Sylvie would choose for a work meeting. "Really?" I keep my voice neutral. "When was this?" "Friday night. They were at that corner table, the one with the good view of the harbor. Very cozy. Very intimate." Marin leans forward, suddenly interested. What did he look like, this fancy fellow? Tall, good-looking in that expensive way. You know the type. Perfect haircut, perfect teeth, probably hasn't done a day of honest work in his life. Driving one of those German cars that cost more than my mortgage. "Brody," Marin says quietly. "You know him?" Luce asks. "We've met. Let's just say he made quite an impression." There's definitely a story there, and from the look on Marin's face, it's not a pleasant one. But before I can ask about it, the conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Tori Dumas, Sylvie's best friend, and the town's unofficial gossip coordinator. Tori has the kind of blonde hair that requires weekly maintenance, and the kind of wardrobe that suggests she's never met a credit card she didn't like. She's married to Chet, who sells real estate and pretends not to notice that his wife spends more than he makes. Tonight she's dressed for a much fancier venue than the anchor, which means she's here on a mission. "Tanner," she calls out, as if she's surprised to see me in a place I've been coming to for years. "And Marin, right? Sylvie mentioned you were visiting." "Staying, actually," Marin corrects. "For the summer, maybe longer." Tori's smile becomes slightly strained. "How nice. I'm sure Sylvie is thrilled to have family around during such a busy time at work." "Oh, she seems to be managing just fine," Marin says. "Very dedicated to her job. Working late tonight, in fact." "Really? That's funny, because I just saw her—" Tori stops mid-sentence, her face flushing slightly. Luce and I exchange glances. Marin leans forward with the expression of a cat who's just spotted a particularly interesting mouse. "You just saw her what?" Marin prompts. "Oh, nothing. I must have been mistaken. It was probably someone else." But it's too late. The damage is done. Everyone in earshot now knows that Tori saw Sylvie somewhere she wasn't supposed to be, doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. "Where did you think you saw her?" I ask, keeping my voice casual. Tori fidgets with her purse strap. "I really don't think... it was probably just someone who looked like her." "At the yacht club?" Luce suggests helpfully. "That's where all the fancy folks go when they want to be seen." "The yacht club," Tori repeats weakly. "Yes, that might have been where..." "The yacht club. Of course. It's exactly the kind of place Brody would take his married girlfriend, exclusive enough to feel special, public enough to seem legitimate, and full of people who mind their own business as long as you can afford the membership fees." "Well," Marin says cheerfully, "I'm sure she was just networking. Sylvie's always been very focused on advancing her career." The conversation moves on to safer topics after that, but the damage has been done. By tomorrow morning, half the town will know that Sylvie was spotted at the yacht club with someone who wasn't her husband. By tomorrow afternoon, the other half will have heard about it too. Tori makes her excuses and leaves after one drink, probably rushing home to call her other friends and spread the news. Luce serves us another round and settles in for some serious gossip. "So," she says, "want to tell me what's really going on? Because that woman looked guilty as sin, and you're sitting here way too calm for someone who just found out his wife is stepping out." I consider my options. Luce has been a friend for years, and she's going to hear the truth eventually anyway. Better that she gets it from me than from the rumor mill. "Sylvie asked for an open marriage," I say finally. "Apparently she's been seeing Brody Kinter for months." Luce lets out a low whistle. Brody Kinter, that hedge fund pretty boy who thinks he's God's gift to womankind. "You know him too?" "Honey, everyone knows Brody. He's been working his way through the social register since his wife started spending more time in Boston. Figured it was only a matter of time before he set his sights on someone like Sylvie." "His wife?" This is news to me. "Oh yeah, Miranda Kinter, old money family from Bar Harbor. They've been married about 10 years, but she spends most of her time at their place in Beacon Hill. Word is she's getting tired of playing the dutiful wife to a man who can't keep his hands to himself." Marin has been quiet during this exchange, but now she speaks up. What if someone were to let Miranda know about her husband's latest conquest? Luce grins. Now that would be interesting. Miranda Kinter doesn't strike me as the type to share her toys. "Just hypothetically," Marin continues, "how would someone go about contacting her if they wanted to, say, return something her husband dropped?" "Hypothetically," Luce says, "I might know someone who cleans houses in Bar Harbor. Someone who might have Miranda's phone number. Hypothetically." I listen to this exchange with growing amazement. I came here tonight expecting to drink beer and complain about my marriage. Instead, I'm watching Marin orchestrate what appears to be the opening moves of a much larger game. "You don't waste time, do you?" I ask her. "Life's too short to let people walk all over you," she replies. "Besides, Sylvie's not the only one who can play games." We stay at the anchor until closing time, talking and planning and getting to know each other in a way that 15 years of family gatherings never allowed. By the time we head home, I feel like I have an ally for the first time in months, someone who's on my side, who understands what I'm up against. Sylvie's car isn't in the driveway when we pull up to the house. Her important business meeting is apparently running very late. "Think she'll be home tonight?" Marin asks as we climb the front steps. "Does it matter?" She considers this. "I guess not. But tomorrow should be interesting." Tomorrow. When Sylvie has to face the consequences of being seen at the yacht club. When she has to explain why her important business meeting looked suspiciously like a romantic dinner. Tomorrow, when the game really begins. I wake up at 6:30 to the sound of Sylvie's car in the driveway. Through the bedroom window, I watch her climb out of the BMW, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday, but looking like she's been through a washing machine. Her hair is messed up, her makeup smeared, and she's walking like someone who's trying very hard to appear sober. She slips into the house quietly, probably hoping to avoid any awkward conversations about where she's been all night. I hear her in the bathroom, running water, trying to clean up the evidence of her evening with Brody. By the time she makes it to the bedroom, I'm already up and dressed, sitting in the chair by the window with a cup of coffee and the morning paper. "You're up early," she says, not meeting my eyes. "Couldn't sleep. How was your meeting?" "Long. Very productive, though. We covered a lot of ground." I'll bet they did. Must have been some meeting to run until 6 in the morning. She freezes halfway to the closet. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I just watched you pull into the driveway. Unless your important client meeting included breakfast, you've been out all night." For a moment, she looks like she's going to try to explain. Then something shifts in her expression, and I see the Sylvie I married, the one who never backs down from a fight. "Yes, I was out all night. I was with Brody. I thought we'd established that I don't need your permission anymore." "You're right. You don't need my permission. But you might want to be more careful about where you're seen. Small towns have big mouths." Her face goes pale. "What are you talking about?" "Tori saw you at the yacht club last night. She was at the Anchor later, trying very hard not to mention it. By now, half the town probably knows you were there with someone who wasn't your husband." Sylvie sinks onto the edge of the bed, suddenly looking very tired. "Tori has a big mouth and too much time on her hands." "Maybe. But she's also your best friend. If she's gossiping about you, what do you think everyone else is saying?" Before she can answer, there's a knock on the bedroom door. "Come in," I call out. Maren enters carrying a tray with coffee and what appears to be homemade muffins. She's already dressed and made up, looking far more put together than her sister. "Good morning, family," she says cheerfully. "I thought I'd make breakfast. Hope you don't mind that I raided your kitchen, Sylvie." "Where did you get muffins?" Sylvie asks suspiciously. "Made them. Blueberry from scratch. I've been up since 5. I'm a morning person. Unlike some people, apparently." The dig is subtle but unmistakable. Sylvie's jaw tightens. "How thoughtful of you." "I also took the liberty of picking up your mail. It was scattered all over the front yard. Windy night, I guess." Maren sets down the tray and pulls a handful of envelopes from her pocket. "Most of it's junk, but there's something here from the yacht club. Probably just a social invitation or something." She hands the envelope to Sylvie, who takes it with obvious reluctance. The return address is embossed with the club's logo, and it's addressed to both of us. "Aren't you going to open it?" Maren asks innocently. Sylvie tears open the envelope and scans the contents quickly. Her face goes from pale to green. "What is it?" I ask. It's an invitation to their summer gala, next weekend." "How nice. We should go. I haven't been to a fancy party in years." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not? You love those kinds of events, all that networking and socializing." Maren perches on the arm of my chair, close enough that I can smell her shampoo. "I'd love to see the yacht club. I've heard so much about it." "You can't bring a guest," Sylvie says quickly. "It's members only." "Actually," I say, remembering something from the invitation, "it says here that members can bring 2 guests. Perfect." Sylvie looks trapped. She can't refuse to go without raising suspicions, but she can't go without risking a very public confrontation between her husband, her sister, and her boyfriend. "I'll have to check my schedule," she says weakly. "Oh, I'm sure you can make time," Maren says. "After all, it's not like you have any important business meetings that night, right?" The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. Sylvie excuses herself to shower and get ready for work, leaving Maren and me alone with the coffee and muffins. "You're enjoying this," I observe. "Immensely. She's been the golden child for so long, she's forgotten what it feels like to be on the defensive. What's the story with you and Brody? And don't tell me you just met him at a party." Maren's expression darkens. We have history. Bad history. Let's just say he's not as charming as he pretends to be, and leave it at that for now. There's pain in her voice, old and carefully buried. Whatever happened between them, it left scars. Is that why you really came here? Because you knew about him and Sylvie? Partly. I heard rumors, and I wanted to see for myself, but mostly I came because you sounded lonely when we talked on the phone, like you needed a friend. I did. I do. She reaches over and squeezes my hand. Well, you've got one now, and together, we're going to make sure your dear wife learns that actions have consequences. Sylvie reappears 20 minutes later, dressed for work, and looking more like her usual controlled self. She grabs a cup of coffee and a muffin, clearly planning to eat on the run. I'll be late tonight, she announces. We're showing properties to some important clients. More important business, Maren says. You're so dedicated. Some of us have to work for a living. It's a dig at Maren's artistic career, the kind of subtle cruelty that Sylvie specializes in. But instead of rising to the bait, Maren just smiles. You're absolutely right. In fact, I was thinking of looking for some part-time work while I'm here. Maybe I'll stop by your office later, see if they need any help with anything. The look of horror that crosses Sylvie's face is almost comical. That's not necessary. I'm sure you want to focus on your art. Oh, I can multitask. Besides, it would be fun to see where you work, meet your colleagues. I'm sure they'd love to hear stories about what you were like growing up. Sylvie's coffee mug hits the counter with a sharp crack. I really have to go. We'll talk about this later. She grabs her purse and heads for the door, moving like someone who's just realized the building is on fire. Have a great day, honey, I call after her. Don't work too hard. The front door slams, and a moment later, we hear her car backing out of the driveway with more speed than necessary. Well, Maren says, that went better than expected. You're really going to visit her office? Oh, absolutely. I want to meet the famous Mr. Harrow, see what kind of man employs my sister. Plus, I'm curious about this Brody character. I bet he spends a lot of time at Coastal Properties, doesn't he? She's right, of course. If Brody and Sylvie have been carrying on for months, he's probably a regular visitor to her workplace. And if Maren shows up asking innocent questions about her sister's work life, you're dangerous, I tell her. You have no idea, but you're about to find out. Coastal Properties occupies the entire top floor of the harbor building, a restored 19th century structure that overlooks the marina. The offices are all glass and chrome and expensive furniture, designed to impress clients who are used to the finer things in life. It's exactly the kind of environment where Sylvie thrives, polished, professional, and completely removed from anything resembling real life. Maren and I arrive at 11:30, just late enough to catch the morning rush but early enough to seem casual. She's dressed for the occasion in a simple black dress and heels, looking every inch the successful artist visiting her sister's workplace. I'm wearing my best khakis and a button-down shirt, playing the supportive brother-in-law. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect teeth and an overly bright smile, greets us with professional enthusiasm. Good morning. How can I help you today? We're here to see Sylvie Jossman, Maren says. I'm her sister, and this is her husband. We were hoping to surprise her with lunch. Oh, how sweet. Let me call her office and let her know you're here. Actually, I interrupt, we were hoping to keep it a surprise. Maybe we could just wait in the lobby until she's free. The receptionist looks uncertain. Well, I suppose that would be okay. But she's in meetings most of the morning. You might be waiting a while. That's fine, Maren says. We're not in any hurry. Besides, it'll give us a chance to see where she works. She talks about this place all the time. We settle into the plush leather chairs in the waiting area, which gives us a perfect view of the entire office. Through the glass walls, I can see people moving around, having meetings, making deals. And there, in a corner office with a view of the harbor, is Sylvie. She's not alone. Brody Kinter is sitting across from her desk, leaning forward in the kind of intimate conversation that has nothing to do with real estate. Even from a distance, I can see the way they're looking at each other, the way their hands almost touch when he passes her a document. Well, Marin murmurs. "Look what we have here. Is that him?" That's him. Still as arrogant as ever, from the look of it. As we watch, Brody stands up and moves around the desk to look at something on Sylvie's computer screen. He leans over her chair, his hand resting on her shoulder, and she tilts her head back to say something to him. It's a casual gesture, comfortable and familiar. The kind of thing you do with someone you've been intimate with for months. They're not being very careful, I observe. Sylvie never was good at hiding her feelings. She always thought she was smarter than everyone else, that she could control every situation. And Brody? Brody thinks he's untouchable, rich, connected, used to getting whatever he wants without consequences. The receptionist's phone rings, and she answers with her practiced smile. Coastal Properties. How may I help you? Oh, hello, Mrs. Kinter. Yes, he's here. Let me transfer you to his office. She puts the call on hold and stands up, looking around the office with a slightly confused expression. Excuse me, she calls to a passing colleague. Do you know where Mr. Kinter is? His wife is on the phone. I think he's in a meeting with Sylvie Jossman, the colleague replies. Conference room B, maybe? The receptionist walks over to the conference room, peers through the glass wall, then checks another room. Meanwhile, Brody and Sylvie are still in her office, completely unaware that his wife is trying to reach him. This is interesting, Marin says quietly. The receptionist returns to her desk and picks up the phone. Mrs. Kinter? I'm sorry, but Mr. Kinter seems to have stepped out. Can I take a message? There's a pause then. Oh, I see. Yes, I'll make sure he gets the message as soon as he returns. She hangs up and makes a note, then goes back to her work. But I notice she keeps glancing toward Sylvie's office with a thoughtful expression. What do you want to bet that wasn't the first time she's had to cover for him? Marin asks. Probably not. But it might be the first time she started to wonder why. We wait another 20 minutes, watching the office dynamics play out like a soap opera. Brody finally leaves Sylvie's office, but not before leaning down to whisper something in her ear that makes her laugh. He walks past us without a second glance, too absorbed in his own importance to notice two strangers in the waiting area. Should we follow him? Marin asks. No need. I have a better idea. I walk over to the receptionist's desk and give her my most charming smile. Excuse me, but I couldn't help overhearing. You mentioned Mrs. Kinter called? Oh, yes. Are you a friend of the family? Actually, my wife and I are members of the same yacht club. I was supposed to meet Brody for lunch, but I think I might have gotten the time wrong. Did his wife say anything about his schedule? The receptionist glances around to make sure no one's listening, then leans forward conspiratorially. Between you and me, I think there might be some confusion about where he's supposed to be. His wife seemed to think he was at his own office, but he's been here all morning. Ah, well, these things happen. Maybe I should give him a call later. That might be best. He seemed pretty focused on his meeting with Ms. Jossman. Perfect. The seed of doubt has been planted. By the end of the day, the receptionist will probably be wondering why Brody spends so much time at Coastal Properties and why his wife doesn't seem to know about it. Marin and I are just settling back into our chairs when Sylvie emerges from her office. She spots us immediately, and the look on her face suggests she's not pleased by our surprise visit. Tanner, Marin, what are you doing here? We brought you lunch, Marin says, holding up a bag from the deli down the street. Thought you might be hungry after all those important meetings. That's thoughtful, but I'm really very busy today. Oh, we don't mind waiting. This place is fascinating. So much activity, so many interesting people coming and going. Sylvie's eyes narrow. What kind of people? Oh, you know, clients, colleagues, that handsome man who was just in your office, for instance. Is he a client? That's confidential information. Of course it is. I'm just making conversation. He looked familiar, though. Didn't we see him at Romano's the other night, Tanner? I shake my head in amazement. Marin has just managed to let Sylvie know that we're aware of her restaurant date with Brody, that we saw him in her office, and that we're not going anywhere quietly. All in the space of 30 seconds. I think there's been some mistake, Sylvie says carefully. I haven't been to Romano's recently. Really? How strange. I could have sworn. But then again, all these handsome businessmen start to look alike after a while. The receptionist looks up from her desk with interest. This conversation is getting more entertaining by the minute. Perhaps we should discuss this somewhere more private, Sylvie suggests. Great idea. Is there somewhere we can eat lunch? I'm starving. Sylvie has no choice but to lead us to a small break room at the back of the office. It's empty except for a few tables and chairs, and a coffee machine that's seen better days. All right, she says once the door is closed. What do you want? Want? Marin looks genuinely puzzled. I want to have lunch with my sister. Is that so strange? You've never visited my office before. You've never brought me lunch. And you certainly never showed up with Tanner in tow unless you were planning something. Maybe I'm turning over a new leaf. Maybe I want us to be closer. Right. And maybe I was born yesterday. I decide to step in before this escalates into a full argument. Look, Sylvie, we're not here to cause trouble. We just wanted to see where you work, meet some of your colleagues. Is that really so suspicious? Everything you two do together is suspicious. That's a little paranoid, don't you think? Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're trying to spy on me. Why would we need to spy on you? Marin asks innocently. You've been so open about your new lifestyle. What could we possibly learn that you haven't already told us? Sylvie doesn't have an answer for that. She sits down heavily in one of the chairs and rubs her temples like she's fighting a headache. What do you want from me? She asks finally. Nothing, I say, and I mean it. We want nothing from you, Sylvie. We're just here to have lunch and spend time together, like family. But even as I say it, I know it's not entirely true. We're here to remind her that her actions have consequences, that she can't just do whatever she wants without considering how it affects other people. We're here to let her know that she's not as invisible as she thinks she is. We eat lunch in relative peace, making small talk about Marin's art and my boat-building projects. Sylvie participates minimally, checking her phone every few minutes and glancing toward the door like she's expecting someone to rescue her. When we're finished, we walk back through the main office toward the elevators. As we pass the reception desk, the young woman looks up with a bright smile. Did you enjoy your lunch, Ms. Jossman? Yes, thank you. Oh, and I almost forgot. Mr. Kinter called while you were eating. He wanted to know if you could meet him at the usual place tonight instead of tomorrow. I told him I'd give you the message. The silence that follows is deafening. Sylvie's face goes white, then red, then white again. Marin and I exchange glances. The usual place, Marin repeats thoughtfully. How convenient to have a usual place. I should get back to work, Sylvie says quickly. Of course, don't let us keep you from your important business. We ride the elevator down in silence, but once we're outside on the sidewalk, Marin starts laughing. Did you see her face? I thought she was going to pass out right there in the lobby. The receptionist certainly made things interesting. Oh, that wasn't an accident. I may have mentioned to her while you were getting coffee that Sylvie's been working so hard lately, taking so many evening meetings. I said I was worried about her, that I hoped she wasn't overdoing it. You planted the idea. I planted the seed. She watered it herself when she started paying attention to Brody's comings and goings. We walk back to the truck in comfortable silence, both of us pleased with the morning's work. Sylvie now knows that we're watching, that her affair isn't as secret as she thought, and that her colleagues are starting to notice things. But more importantly, she knows that we're not going to just sit back and let her destroy our family without a fight. The game is definitely on. The Harbor Yacht Club sits on a point of land that juts into Penobscot Bay like the prow of a ship, all weathered shingles and white trim and windows that reflect the afternoon sun. It's the kind of place where old money goes to feel superior to new money, and where new money goes to pretend it's old money. Tonight, for their annual summer gala, it's decorated with enough flowers and lights to make a wedding planner weep with envy. Marin and I arrive fashionably late, which gives us the advantage of making an entrance. She's wearing a midnight blue dress that probably cost more than my truck, borrowed from a friend in Portland who moves in more sophisticated circles. I'm in my only decent suit, the one I bought for our wedding and have worn maybe 6 times since. "Ready for this?" she asks as we walk up the front steps. "As ready as I'll ever be." The main ballroom is full of the kind of people who consider themselves the backbone of Maine's society, lawyers and doctors and business owners, all dressed in their finest and trying to out-charm each other. A string quartet plays in one corner while waiters circulate with champagne and hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more per bite than most people spend on lunch. I spot Sylvie almost immediately. She's standing near the bar with Tori and a few other women from her social circle, wearing a red dress that shows off her figure and a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. She sees us at the same moment I see her, and her smile falters for just a second before she recovers her composure. "There's our hostess," Marin murmurs. "Should we go say hello?" "In a minute. I want to get the lay of the land first." We accept champagne from a passing waiter and begin to mingle, moving through the crowd like we belong here. Marin has a gift for conversation, drawing people out with questions about their work and their interests. Within 20 minutes, she's collected business cards from 3 potential clients and invitations to 2 dinner parties. "You're good at this," I tell her during a quiet moment. "I've had practice, art openings, gallery shows, fundraisers. They're all basically the same, rich people showing off for other rich people while pretending to care about something meaningful." Cynical much? Realistic, but it doesn't mean I can't play the game when I need to. Across the room, I catch sight of a familiar figure. Brody Kinter is holding court near the windows, surrounded by a group of men who hang on his every word like he's sharing the secrets of the universe. He's wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than most people's cars, and he has the kind of confidence that comes from never having been told no. "There's your boyfriend," I tell Marin. She follows my gaze, and her expression hardens. "He's not my boyfriend. He's not anyone's boyfriend, despite what he might think." "What exactly happened between you two?" She's quiet for a long moment, watching Brody laugh at something one of his admirers said. When she speaks, her voice is carefully controlled. "I was 22, fresh out of art school, trying to make it in Boston. He was married but separated, or so he told me. Rich, charming, interested in supporting young artists. You can probably guess how the story goes. He used you. He promised me things. A gallery showing, introductions to collectors, a chance to make a real career for myself. All I had to do was be grateful and available. What happened? I found out he was still very much married, for one thing. His wife was in Europe for the summer, not filing for divorce. And the gallery showing, the introductions, all lies. He just wanted a young, naive girlfriend to make him feel important. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me an important lesson about men like him. They think everyone has a price, that they can buy whatever they want, but some things aren't for sale." As if he can feel us watching him, Brody looks up and sees us across the room. His eyes linger on Marin for a moment, and I see something flicker in his expression. Recognition, maybe, or surprise. Then his gaze shifts to me, and his face hardens. "He remembers you," I observe. "Good. I was hoping he would." Before I can ask what she means by that, we're interrupted by the arrival of Sylvie and her entourage. She's managed to work her way across the room without appearing to approach us directly, but now she's close enough to join our conversation. "Tanner, Marin, I'm so glad you could make it." Her voice is warm enough for public consumption, but her eyes are cold. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet my sister and my husband." She introduces us to her companions, Tori, of course, along with 2 other women whose names I immediately forget, and a man who apparently owns half the commercial real estate in town. They're polite enough, but I can sense them evaluating us, trying to figure out where we fit in their social hierarchy. Marin's an artist, Sylvie continues. She works with found objects, creating sculptures from driftwood and scrap metal. Very avant-garde. It's a subtle put-down, designed to make Marin sound like someone who makes ashtrays from bottle caps. But Marin just smiles. I prefer to think of it as giving new life to things other people have discarded. There's beauty in broken pieces, if you know how to look for it. How philosophical, one of the women says. Art should make you think, don't you agree? Challenge your assumptions about what has value and what doesn't? The conversation continues in this vein for several more minutes, with Sylvie trying to diminish her sister and Marin deflecting every attempt with grace and humor. I'm content to watch and listen, learning more about both women than I've discovered in years of family gatherings. Oh, look, Tori says suddenly. There's Brody Kinter. Sylvie, didn't you say you've been working with him on some property deals? Sylvie's face goes pale. We've had some professional interactions, yes. He's so charming and handsome. His poor wife, stuck in Boston all the time while he's up here all alone. The comment is innocent enough on the surface, but there's something in Tori's tone that suggests she knows more than she's letting on. I remember what Luce said about small towns and big mouths. Maybe we should go introduce ourselves, Marin suggests. I'd love to meet one of Sylvie's business associates. That's not necessary, Sylvie says quickly. He's probably busy with his own friends. Nonsense. I'm sure he'd love to meet your family. Before Sylvie can object further, Marin is already moving across the room toward Brody's group. I follow, leaving Sylvie with no choice but to come along or risk looking rude. Brody sees us approaching, and his smile becomes slightly strained. Up close, he's exactly what I expected. Tall, well-groomed, with the kind of practiced charm that comes from years of getting by on his looks and his bank account. Brody, Sylvie says when we reach the group, I'd like you to meet my husband, Tanner, and my sister, Marin. Pleasure to meet you, Brody says, extending his hand to me. His grip is firm but not aggressive, the handshake of a man who's learned to project confidence without seeming threatening. Likewise, Sylvie's told me so much about your business relationship. All good things, I hope? Oh, very good things. She speaks very highly of your collaboration. There's a moment of awkward silence as everyone tries to figure out whether that was an innocent comment or something more pointed. Then Marin steps forward. Actually, we've met before, she says to Brody, though I'm not surprised you don't remember. It was several years ago, in Boston. Brody's smile falters. Boston? The Gardner Gallery opening. You were there with a group of investors, looking at emerging artists. We had quite a long conversation about the future of contemporary sculpture. I'm afraid I don't. That is, I meet so many people. Of course you do. Though I have to say, your memory was much better when you thought I might be useful to you. The temperature in the immediate vicinity drops about 20 degrees. Sylvie is staring at her sister with a mixture of horror and fascination, while Brody looks like he's trying to solve a complex math problem in his head. Well, he says finally, it's always nice to reconnect with old friends. Friends. Yes, that's one way to put it. I decide to step in before Marin can do any more damage to Brody's composure. So, Brody, what kind of business are you in exactly? Sylvie mentioned something about investments. Hedge funds, primarily. Alternative investments for high net worth individuals. Sounds complicated. It can be. But the basic principle is simple. You find opportunities that other people miss, and you capitalize on them. Opportunities that other people miss, Marin repeats thoughtfully. How interesting. And what happens when those other people figure out what you're doing? I'm sorry? Well, if you're taking advantage of opportunities that others have overlooked, presumably they're going to catch on eventually. What happens then? Brody's smile is becoming increasingly forced. Market dynamics are always evolving. Successful investors adapt to changing conditions. Adapt or find new opportunities to exploit. I prefer to think of it as creating value for my clients. Of course you do. The conversation is interrupted by the arrival of a woman I don't recognize. Tall, elegant, with the kind of understated style that screams old money. She approaches our group with the confidence of someone who's used to being the most important person in any room. "Brody, darling," she says, kissing him lightly on both cheeks. "I was hoping I'd find you here." Brody's face goes white. "Miranda, what are you doing here?" "I decided to drive up from Boston for the weekend. Surprise." Miranda, Brody's wife, the one who's supposed to be safely tucked away in Beacon Hill, not making surprise appearances at yacht club galas. "How wonderful," Brody manages. "I wasn't expecting you." "Obviously not, or you would have mentioned it when we talked this morning." Her smile is sharp enough to cut glass. "But then, you've been full of surprises lately." The silence that follows is deafening. Sylvie looks like she wants to disappear into the floor. Brody looks like he's calculating the distance to the nearest exit. And Miranda looks like a cat who's just cornered a very large mouse. "Well," Marin says cheerfully, "this is awkward." The confrontation at the yacht club creates ripples that spread through the town like waves from a dropped stone. By Monday morning, everyone who matters knows that Brody Kinter's wife made a surprise appearance at the gala, that she seemed less than pleased with her husband's behavior, and that Sylvie Jossman looked guilty as sin when the two women were introduced. I'm in my workshop, pretending to work on a cabinet door while actually thinking about the weekend's events, when Luce Parker appears in the doorway. "Well, well," she says, settling into the old chair I keep for visitors. "Heard you folks had quite an evening Saturday night?" News travels fast. "Honey, in a town this size, news travels at the speed of light, especially when it involves someone as high profile as the Kinters." What are people saying? Oh, the usual. That Miranda Kinter didn't drive up from Boston on a whim, that she's been suspicious about her husband's frequent trips to Maine, that someone might have given her a reason to start paying closer attention to his activities. I look up from my work. Someone? Now, I'm not naming names, but hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to make sure Mrs. Kinter knew about her husband's extracurricular activities, it wouldn't be that hard to do. A phone call, maybe. An anonymous tip about where she might find him on Saturday night. The pieces click into place. Marin. Like I said, I'm not naming names, but your sister-in-law is a very resourceful young woman. What happened after we left? Luce grins. Oh, that's the best part. Apparently Miranda cornered Brody by the coat check and had what witnesses described as a spirited discussion about his recent travel schedule. Then she marched over to where your wife was standing and introduced herself as Brody's wife. How did Sylvie handle that? About as well as you'd expect. Turned 3 shades of red and excused herself to the ladies' room. Didn't come back for 20 minutes, and when she did, she looked like she'd been crying. And Brody? Left with his wife about 10 minutes later. Word is they drove back to Boston that same night, and it wasn't a pleasant trip. I set down my tools and lean against the workbench. The plan is working better than I'd hoped, but I'm starting to worry about unintended consequences. Marin is playing a dangerous game, and I'm not sure either of us fully understands the rules. Luce, what do you know about Miranda Kinter? Enough to know she's not someone you want as an enemy. Old Boston family, serious money, the kind of connections that can make or break careers. She's also smart as hell and doesn't suffer fools gladly. Think she'll cause trouble for Sylvie? Depends on what you mean by trouble. She's not going to key her car or start a catfight at the grocery store, but if she decides Sylvie is a threat to her marriage, she has other ways of dealing with problems. Such as? Such as making a few phone calls to the right people. Sylvie works in real estate, right? Well, Miranda's family has interests in several major development projects around the state. They also sit on the boards of half the banks in New England. If Miranda wanted to make life difficult for someone in Sylvie's position, she doesn't need to finish the sentence. I can see where this is heading, and it's not pretty. Maybe I should talk to Marin. Make sure she understands what she's gotten us into. Maybe you should. But Tanner, whatever you decide to do, you better do it fast. Because this thing is picking up momentum, and once it really gets rolling, it's going to be hard to stop. After Luce leaves, I spend the rest of the morning trying to focus on work, but my mind keeps wandering. By the time Marin gets back from her morning run, I've made a decision. We need to talk, I tell her as she stretches on the front porch. Sounds serious. It is. Did you call Miranda Kinter? She doesn't deny it, which is answer enough. Someone needed to let her know what her husband was up to. And you decided that someone should be you? Who else was going to do it? You? You're too nice, Tanner. Too fair. You would have spent weeks agonizing over whether it was the right thing to do. Maybe because it's not the right thing to do. Maybe because we're playing with people's lives here. She stops stretching and looks at me with those direct eyes that seem to see right through whatever facade I'm trying to maintain. Whose life, exactly? Brody's? He made his choices. Sylvie's? She made hers too. Miranda's? She deserves to know the truth about her marriage. What about us? What about the consequences for us when this all comes crashing down? What consequences? We haven't done anything wrong. We haven't lied or cheated or betrayed anyone's trust. All we've done is make sure the truth comes to light. The truth has a way of hurting innocent people, and lies have a way of hurting them worse. We're interrupted by the sound of a car in the driveway, Sylvie's BMW, arriving home in the middle of the day when she should be at work. That's not a good sign. She gets out of the car moving like someone in a daze, her usual perfect composure completely shattered. Her hair is messed up, her makeup smeared, and she's carrying a cardboard box that I recognize as the kind they give you when you're cleaning out your desk. Oh no, Marin breathes. We meet Sylvie at the front door. Up close, she looks even worse, pale, shaky, like someone who's just received devastating news. What happened? I ask. I've been fired. Her voice is flat, emotionless. Mr. Harrow called me into his office this morning and told me my services were no longer required. Why? He said there had been complaints about my conduct, that I'd been seen in compromising situations with clients, that it was affecting the firm's reputation. Marin and I exchange glances. This is worse than we expected. Did he say who complained? He didn't have to. Miranda Kinter sits on the board of the Harbor Development Group, which is one of our biggest clients. She made some calls, asked some questions, and suddenly everyone's very concerned about my professional ethics. Sylvie pushes past us into the house and sets the box down on the kitchen table with a thud. Inside, I can see the personal items from her office, photos, awards, the little decorative objects she used to make her workspace feel more like home. I'm sorry, I say, and I mean it. Whatever Sylvie has done, losing her job is a harsh consequence. Are you? Because this feels like exactly what you and my sister wanted. We didn't want you to lose your job. Didn't you? You've been working together to undermine me since the day she arrived, following me, spying on me, spreading gossip about my personal life. We haven't spread any gossip. Really? Then how did Miranda Kinter know exactly where to find Brody on Saturday night? How did she know about Romano's, about the yacht club meetings, about any of it? I don't have an answer for that, at least not one I'm willing to share. Sylvie looks back and forth between Marin and me, and I can see the moment when she puts the pieces together. It was you, she says to her sister. You called her. Someone had to. You destroyed my career, my reputation, everything I've worked for. I told the truth. If that destroyed your career, maybe your career was built on lies. Sylvie's face crumples, and for a moment, she looks like the young woman I married 15 years ago, vulnerable, hurt, lost. Then the mask slips back into place, and she's the cold, controlled person she's become. "Get out," she says quietly. "Sylvie," I start. "Not you, her. I want her out of my house. Today." "It's my house too," I remind her. "Then choose, her or me. But I won't spend another night under the same roof as someone who's actively trying to destroy my life." The silence that follows is heavy with years of accumulated resentment and disappointment. Three people who used to care about each other, now standing in a kitchen full of broken dreams and shattered trust. "I'll pack my things," Marin says finally. "Marin, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. She's your wife, Tanner. Whatever problems you two have, you need to work them out without me in the middle." She heads upstairs, leaving Sylvie and me alone with the wreckage of our marriage. "Are you happy now?" Sylvie asks. "No, I'm not happy. I haven't been happy in a long time." "So this is revenge? Punishment for wanting something more than what we had?" "This is consequences, Sylvie. For lying, for cheating, for treating our marriage like it was something you could just rewrite whenever you got bored. I never meant for it to go this far. Neither did I. But here we are." She sits down at the table, her head in her hands. "What am I supposed to do now? I don't have a job. I don't have Brody. I don't have anything. You have me, if you want me." She looks up, and for a moment I see hope in her eyes. Then it fades. "Do I? Because it feels like you've already chosen sides." Maybe I have. Maybe the moment she handed me that note on the refrigerator, the choice was already made. Maybe some things, once broken, can't be fixed. Upstairs I can hear Marin moving around, packing her belongings. In a few hours, she'll be gone, and Sylvie and I will be left to figure out what's left of our marriage, if anything. Marin doesn't go far. She rents a small apartment above the bookstore on Main Street, close enough to stay involved, but far enough to give Sylvie the space she demanded. For 3 days, an uneasy quiet settles over our house like fog rolling in from the bay. Sylvie spends most of her time in the bedroom or the living room, making phone calls to potential employers and trying to salvage her career. I work in my shop and try to pretend that everything is normal. It's not working for either of us. Thursday afternoon, I'm installing hinges on a cabinet door when I hear voices in the driveway. Through the workshop window, I can see Brody Kinter climbing out of his BMW, looking around like he's not sure he should be here. He's dressed casually, khakis and a polo shirt instead of his usual expensive suits, but he still manages to look out of place in our middle-class neighborhood. I set down my tools and walk to the front of the house, arriving just as Brody reaches the front door. "Looking for someone?" I ask. He turns, and I can see that the events of the past few days have taken their toll. His usual confident demeanor is cracked around the edges, and there are dark circles under his eyes that suggest he hasn't been sleeping well. I need to talk to Sylvie. She's not here. It's a lie, but I'm not in the mood to make this easy for him. Her car's in the driveway. She's not available. We stare at each other for a moment. Two men who've never particularly liked each other, but have never had reason for open conflict. Until now. "Look, Tanner, I know this is awkward, but..." "Awkward? That's what you're calling it?" "I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But I really need to speak with her." "Why? So you can explain how you're going to fix this mess? So you can promise to leave your wife and run away together? Or are you here to tell her it's over and she needs to move on?" His jaw tightens. "That's between Sylvie and me." "Actually, it's between Sylvie and me. You're just the guy who helped wreck my marriage. Your marriage was already in trouble. I didn't create those problems. No, but you sure as hell made them worse." The front door opens, and Sylvie appears. She's dressed in jeans and a sweater, looking more casual than I've seen her in months. Without makeup and expensive clothes, she looks younger, more like the woman I married. "Brody, what are you doing here?" "I needed to see you, to explain what happened." She glances at me, then back at him. Maybe we should talk somewhere else. Maybe you should talk right here, I suggest. In front of your husband. Since this involves all of us. Tanner, please. No, Sylvie. I'm tired of being the last one to know what's happening in my own marriage. If he has something to say, he can say it in front of me. Brody looks uncomfortable with the idea, but Sylvie nods reluctantly. We move to the front porch, where the neighbors can see us but hopefully can't hear what we're saying. Miranda knows everything, Brody begins. About us, about the hotels, about all of it. I figured that out when I got fired, Sylvie says dryly. She's filed for divorce. She wants half of everything, plus alimony. Her lawyers are already freezing assets, trying to make sure I can't hide anything before the settlement. What does that have to do with Sylvie? I ask, though I think I already know the answer. She's going to be called as a witness. Miranda's lawyers want to establish a pattern of infidelity, prove that I've been hiding assets to fund my affairs. Have you been? That's not the point. The point is that Sylvie's going to be dragged through a very public, very messy divorce proceeding. Her name will be in the papers. Her personal life will be examined in court. Sylvie sinks into one of the porch chairs, the full implications hitting her. My career is already over. If this goes to court, there might be a way to avoid that, Brody says quickly. Miranda's lawyers are willing to keep your name out of it if you cooperate. Tell them what they want to know about my finances, about where I took you, how much I spent. You want her to testify against you? I ask. I want her to tell the truth. In exchange, they'll minimize her involvement in the public record. And what happens to you? He shrugs. I lose half my money and pay alimony for the rest of my life. But I'll survive. What about us? Sylvie asks quietly. What happens to us? The question hangs in the air like smoke from a fading fire. Brody looks at her with something that might be regret or might just be exhaustion. There is no us, Sylvie. There never really was. I'm sorry if I made you think otherwise. She flinches like he slapped her. I see. I cared about you. I still do. But I was never going to leave Miranda, and you knew that. Did I? Because you certainly made it sound like you were considering it. I was considering a lot of things, but reality has a way of clarifying your priorities. I watch this exchange with a mixture of anger and pity. Anger at Brody for his casual cruelty, and pity for Sylvie, who's finally seeing her lover for what he really is, a selfish man who was never willing to sacrifice anything meaningful for their relationship. So that's it? She asks. 8 months of my life, my career, my marriage, and you're just walking away? What did you expect? That we'd ride off into the sunset together? You're a smart woman, Sylvie. You knew this couldn't last. I knew it was complicated. I thought it was worth fighting for. It was fun while it lasted, but it's over now. The casual dismissal is too much for me to take. I stand up, my hands clenched into fists. Get out, I say quietly. Tanner, get out of here before I do something we'll both regret. Brody looks at me for a moment, probably calculating whether I'm serious. Whatever he sees in my expression convinces him not to test me. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the testimony, he tells Sylvie. Don't bother. I'll call Miranda's lawyers myself. He nods and walks back to his car, moving with the quick, nervous steps of a man who knows he's not welcome. We watch him drive away, leaving behind nothing but the smell of expensive cologne and the wreckage of 2 marriages. Well, Sylvie says after a long silence, that was humiliating. I'm sorry. Are you? Because part of you must be enjoying this, watching me get exactly what I deserve. I consider the question honestly. Am I enjoying her pain? Maybe a little, which makes me feel small and petty, but mostly I just feel tired. I don't enjoy seeing you hurt, Sylvie, even after everything that's happened. But you're not surprised. No, I'm not surprised. She looks out at the harbor, where the afternoon light is turning the water silver and gold. What happens now? I don't know. What do you want to happen? I want to go back to the way things were before. Before Brody, before the open marriage, before I ruined everything. We can't go back. I know. But maybe we can go forward. Maybe we can figure out how to be married to each other again. It's the first time in months that she's acknowledged that marriage requires two people working together. The first time she's suggested that she might be willing to change, to compromise, to consider what I want as well as what she wants. It would be hard work, I tell her. I know. We'd have to be completely honest with each other. No more secrets, no more games. I know. And we'd have to want the same things. Both of us. Not just you deciding what's best for both of us. She nods, tears starting to run down her cheeks. I've been selfish. I've been thinking only about what I wanted, not about what we needed. Why? What changed? I don't know. Maybe I got bored. Maybe I felt like I was disappearing, like I was just Tanner's wife instead of Sylvie. Maybe I wanted to feel special again, important. You are special. You are important. To you, maybe, but not to myself. I haven't felt like myself in years. I reach over and take her hand. It's the first time we've touched in weeks, and it feels both familiar and strange. So who do you want to be? I ask. I want to be someone you can trust, someone you can love, someone who deserves a second chance. That's not who you want to be. That's who you want me to see you as. Who do you want to be for yourself? She thinks about this for a long time, watching the boats in the harbor bob on the gentle swells. I want to be someone who doesn't need other people to tell her she's worthwhile. Someone who can be happy with what she has instead of always looking for something better. That sounds like a good start. Is it enough? For us, I mean. Is it enough to build something new? I don't answer right away because I honestly don't know. The hurt runs deep, and trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. But for the first time in months, I feel like we're having a real conversation, talking about real things, instead of just managing the surface details of our shared life. I think it might be, I say finally, but it's going to take time and work and probably some help. Counseling? Among other things. She nods, squeezing my hand. Whatever it takes. We sit there in the gathering dusk, two people who've hurt each other badly but are maybe, possibly willing to try again. It's not forgiveness, not yet. But it's a beginning. And sometimes, a beginning is enough. The story ends there, with possibility rather than certainty, with the hard work of rebuilding still ahead of us. Because that's how real life works, not with dramatic confrontations and neat resolutions, but with small moments of choice, with the decision to keep trying even when you're not sure it will work. Marin moves back to Portland a week later, her mission accomplished in ways she probably never intended. Sylvie testifies in Miranda's divorce proceedings, helping to ensure that Brody gets exactly what he deserves. And we begin the slow, difficult process of learning how to be married to each other again. It's not easy, it's not always pleasant, but it's honest, which is more than we've had in years. And for now, that's enough.